Start na. Hello. Game. Hi, good evening, everybody. Yeah, first of all, welcome to Public House. It's lovely to have you here tonight. For those who don't know me yet, my name is Celine. I'm the general manager here at Draper Startup House. So Draper Startup House is a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs. So it's an international chain of hostels with offices, co-working, and startup services. And Public House is one of our ventures. So it's our food and beverage launching pad. So tonight, we are offering multiple food brands in our space. So we have our Indian food, we have Hey Hungry, and we also have Gatong QC available on the menu. And this evening, we're going to have our Bitcoin beer and bit stories. So BBB, as we fondly call it, is our monthly Web3 community meetup. And we have been running this event for the past year and a half. And so we're happy that we still get to continue this event. And tonight I'm excited to talk about the most important thing, Bitcoin. We have very special guests who are going to speak tonight. So we will be starting with news from our media partner, Bitpinas. So we'll have Michael Mislos speaking, giving us some updates. And then we will have a Web3 pitch with stars.eu. And then we'll proceed with our topic for the evening, the bullish case for Bitcoin. So yeah, welcome everybody, and then we will now start the program. Yeah. By the way, we're franchising Draper Startup House. So if you think it would be beneficial to your city to have a Bitpinas, a Draper Startup House. I saw kasi Bitpinas. Let me know, talk to me. Yes, and now, yes, we have news. And I'd love to now welcome to the stage the editor-in-chief of Bitpinas, Mr. Michael Mislos.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So thank you, Draper, for having us again here at Bitcoin Beer and Bit Stories. So Bitpinas, I would like to introduce to you. We are an online news website. We are the longest running crypto news site here in the Philippines. We have been doing this since 2017. And my name is Mike. I started covering crypto news here since 2017. It was a very expensive experience for me at the time because it was the bull run, if of course you guys remember that. And I've been covering the local industry full time for the last 7 years na pala. So 7 years na so far. Wow. And yeah, so since then we have been reporting every milestone, every development here in the country. Um, and then we have been expanding to also events. So we go to events and then we cover the developments there. And then we have a job list as well. We have a newsletter and we have a very active Facebook community as well, Facebook website. And so one of the things that we do lately is we do our interviews with with key members of the community, of the crypto community here. So in here we have the CEO of Coins and the CEO of PDAX and then the CEO of Union Digital. So we do these interviews as well. So no, not that's so the slides that we have here are some of the things that I found online on the Bitcoin adoption here in the country. So the first one, I saw this picture. I believe some of them are here or maybe not, but I believe this is the first Bitcoin meetup here in the country. And what I like about this picture, this is the first Bitcoin ATM here. And is this the first Bitcoin ATM? Kind of one of the first. One of the first Bitcoin ATM here in the country. And what I like about this picture is how far we have come into Bitcoin adoption. So at the time they do this, and now we can buy Bitcoin on our phones. And then also before we do P2P, although we still do it now. And one of the noble ideas that people the companies here does is this so-called Bitcoin prepaid card. So what they because Pinoys are very familiar with Bitcoin credit, what is this? Loads, right? So we scratch a card and then we get loads. So what this does is that there's also a prepaid. It looks like a prepaid card, and then we scratch it, then we get the Bitcoin. So just another one. And then, so I truly believe that, before, what happened before Play to Earn, before Axie, um, for Play to Earn, before Axie, I believe the first 1 million Filipinos were onboarded by a Bitcoin, of course, right? So I'm truly, and this is one of the events where Ramon, one of the speakers later, so we kind of not discuss it, this particular topic at that time. So I hope we can have this particular discussion in the future. But yeah, welcome to our Bitcoin event tonight and enjoy.
Thank you so much, Mike, for the historical review of Bitcoin here in the Philippines. So coming up next, we have a very special guest coming all the way from Germany. Let's welcome to the stage the CEO of Stars, Marco.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome. I'm always here since a bit more 1 week. I was at the Sigma event here in Manila as well, and was invited to come here and took the chance. So thanks a lot. Yeah, we at Stars have a huge lead backer with Sport One. It's a very big media and sports broadcaster in the German-speaking regions. And what we are doing is that we are combining the world of Web3 with the world of Web2 in sports. And we are building up a one-stop shop platform for fans and their stars to interact in a new way. So what does it mean? We are speaking from champions. This is sports clubs from football, cricket, basketball, whatever, up to celebrities like musicians, artists, content creators, anybody who has a huge follower base. And we offer several services to them on our platform. So on one hand, we have several surveys we can do. So for example, a musician who wants to create a new best of album can make surveys based on blockchain technology. Which songs should be on this new album, and all the fans can vote on blockchain for their most favorite songs, and the ones with the most upvotes will get them on this album. And this will be transparent for everyone due to blockchain technology. We have a social media hub as well, so we combine all information from all socials on our platform, so fans don't miss out anything, because there will be a combined feed from Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever you want to. And the celebrities and clubs have also the opportunity to create own content, AI-generated content on our platform as well. Then we have NFTs and NFT ticketing on our platform. So we have, let's say, a shop where they can create their own NFTs with high utility behind it to sell it to their audience. And we have an NFT ticketing system to avoid the second market and high price increases, so that we can be secure that there will be no reselling of tickets and no fake tickets on the market. We have streaming and metaverse access as well. So we provide blockchain-based peer-to-peer streaming directly from the content creator to the audience without any middleman. We have the metaverse access, so that if a musician decides to have a concert in the metaverse, we have 20 original rebuilt stadiums already with merchandising shops in front of it, where there can be bought some merchandising articles in digital form. All is done by fan tokens, so the people can buy fan tokens from their favorite star, and the more tokens they have, the higher will be the influence they can have on decisions. And additionally, it will help the so-called champion or sports club to generate additional income by what they are doing. Our revenue model is so quite huge, as we have several things that we are offering to the fan base, but be sure it's a model which can highly be increased by any additionally champion we let on our platform. The minimum is that they have like 250K followers, and then they are welcome to onboard on our website. The team, I have someone here from the Philippines. It's Cristel Galano. She's living here in Manila. She is our head of marketing. And the rest of the team is mostly from Germany, except Fabian Bäumler. He is our CTO and is living in Bangkok, where our development team is sitting. And I and the head of sales, Jörg Zeitz, we are from Germany. And we have all the high experience already in blockchain and crypto, and as well in sports, as Jörg and I had already a known company in the world of sports and entertainment with good connections. The advisory board also is very good known and well known in the space of crypto and blockchain technology. Our growth and community already, we are still in the early stages, but we already gained a lot of traction, like 18,000 followers on Telegram, nearly 10,000 on Twitter, and 2,000 on Discord. It's increasing from day to day, and we expect to open our ecosystem in December, and in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we will be ready to show our first prototype to our audience. Here you see just some mock-ups, how it will look like when it's finished, just to get some impressions about the main sites. That's it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Marco. Does anyone have any questions for Marco and Stars? Any questions over here? No? All right. Well, thank you, Marco. And if you're an investor looking for a good investment in Web3 companies, you may want to look at Stars. And if you want to be an influencer and be a star, you may also want to join the Stars platform. So for those who are watching the live streaming, check out their website. Okay, so up next, we have a raffle. So tonight, we are raffling off not one, but two books about Bitcoin, courtesy of Mr. Miguel Cuneta, one of our speakers for tonight. So if you signed up at the entrance and registered your name, you are part of our raffle for the evening. So our first book is entitled Bitcoin, an Introduction by Florin Hilbe. So one of our guests here at Draper tonight gets to win this beautiful book. And the winner is Augusto. Is Augusto here? Augusto Iki. No? You're not here? Okay, if you're not here, I will find another winner. Chicky. Chicky. Congratulations. You win this book. Okay. Up next, we now move on to our discussion for the evening, the bullish case for Bitcoin. So I now welcome to the stage our OG Bitcoiners, Mr. Ramon Tayag and Miguel Cuneta. Yay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Miguel Cuneta, and I am the co-founder of SEI Ventures Inc., also Remittance Inc. So we were the first Filipino-led company that got the BSP license in 2017. We started our company in 2014, and we were doing remittances, payment processing. We did a lot of different things. We experimented on a lot of different things with Bitcoin, using Bitcoin as the rails for our financial technology. So during that time, we didn't have a lot of other. There was no Web3. There wasn't even any Ethereum yet, and all that. So right now, the industry is much bigger, and when we were starting out, actually Ramon started out around the same time as us, and now Remittance is we actually already shut down our company, so we were able to grow the industry in the beginning, and we were able to, I think, pave the way for the others to come now. And now we have such a big industry. We're still part of the industry. I'm part of a startup called Stanimal.com, and also as advisors to different companies, and also helping, for example, the government or educational institutions. Like, that's why we still do these kinds of talks.
Yeah, I'm Ramon Tayag, and I started out with Bloom. So that's what Miguel mentioned. That was around 2016. And so I am familiar with the local space and using Bitcoin for remittances also. And I knew, or I had a feeling that it was going to change. Like, if Bitcoin was to be used for remittances, it was going to change. And I'm starting to see that already here. I also host, like starting 2018, I host the Makati Bitcoin meetup. I see some familiar faces here. Thank you for coming. And we hold it here, right? We recently moved here because they accept Bitcoin over Lightning, which is an excellent way to pay if you're using a Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency. And I encourage you to join that meetup as well.
All right, so what do we do now? What's next? So I don't know. What's the program like, actually?
Yeah, so we're supposed to talk to each other here on stage.
Oh, how are you, bro?
Yeah,
How
you know,
are
get to
you
know
doing?
each other a little bit more intimately
Okay.
about Bitcoin. But I think like it's interesting. I remember reading seeing these events and Bitcoin was in the title, but I told Celine, hey, you guys haven't talked about Bitcoin yet, right? So this is the one event, maybe hopefully more, where Bitcoin is a focus also. You know, if a lot of you come from the Web3 or crypto communities, I guess something I hear quite often is that, you know, Bitcoin was yesterday's news and it's dead now, or it's not the future. But you know, since I started concentrating on Bitcoin in 2018, I haven't been able to keep up. There's just a lot of things happening, and I hope to cover some of those tonight because, you know, I think as we saw in 2021, 2022, like Bitcoin, a lot of people realized isn't going to go away, right? So what's in store? And if it's going to stay here, is it going to, are we bullish about it? Like, is there something to be bullish about?
So yeah, I guess the title of the talk is the bullish case for Bitcoin, right? So I've been in this space for like I think it's my 10th year. I started learning about Bitcoin in 2013, and that learning curve is really steep. It took me quite a while. I don't know. Sorry, I'm gonna ask everyone who's like familiar with Bitcoin here. Familiar with Bitcoin?
Familiar with Bitcoin?
Who's like used Bitcoin before? Was a Bitcoin wallet? Do you have any idea about Bitcoin? It's like this digital coin with a no.
With
So
a
yeah,
P,
that's the thing.
yeah.
That's the thing though. Like we've been doing these meetups and these talks for the last 10 years, and um, it's always kind of the same. Like how many people know about Bitcoin? Not that many, right? And how many people actually understand it? Very few. I could say I don't even she understands it. I don't even really I think fully grasp it yet, but I think I have a good understanding of it. And I think that's the thing here. Like what is Bitcoin to you guys? Like what do you think is what is Bitcoin? Like for you, like what's your first thought? The future of okay, that's good. I planted him. I'm paying him later. But yeah, so how about you, sir? An investment. See, there's like different, what is Bitcoin to people is different for each person, right? So I guess I can do a little bit of how I understand it. So yes, peer-to-peer electronic cash system. That's what's on the white paper, right? Bitcoin is, you said it's an investment, and that's the most common thing. People think it's something you buy, wait for the price to go up, and sell later. But that's actually not why people are bullish about Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a technology, first and foremost. And the technology only works if there's a network. So there's a Bitcoin network. The Bitcoin network is an independent, self-sustaining monetary network, the first of its kind. So it was introduced during the time in 2008 when there was the financial crisis, right? And I guess that's how the market, it kind of emerged organically through an anonymous programmer. Like it could be a script for a Hollywood movie, right? This anonymous guy says, hey, I figured out the double spending problem. And in any kind of technology, it's a technology, right? What does this technology solve? That's the first thing you ask. Like, what's the problem that it solves for society? And Bitcoin had a very simple proposition. It said it solved what's called the double spending problem, which is in digital transactions. Before Bitcoin, there has never been a way to do it without a middleman. Every single transaction you did online, had a middleman, had someone make sure it's valid, make sure it's true, make sure no one's getting cheated, and then um, take a little bit of a fee, right?
Yeah.
Take a little bit of a fee every time you transfer money, every time you do something online with transfers of money. Why? Because how do you prevent someone from, let's say you have a digital peso and you transfer it to someone, how does that person know that you didn't copy that digital peso and spent it somewhere else before you spent it with him, right? And there was a way to do it with the middleman. That's the only way we could figure out how to do it. But because of Satoshi, because of this anonymous guy, suddenly there was a way to do it with no middleman, peer to peer. And that is, I think, one of the most profound things about it. It's really groundbreaking because in the physical world, when you buy something from a sari-sari store, for example, and you give them money, that person doesn't need to know who you are. There's a transaction between you and them with cash, right? And once the cash exchanges hands, the transaction is done, right? You can't do it over a vast distance. There's a chance that they're not going to deliver it. There's a chance. So there's a lot of things that we take for granted. It seems simple, but it's actually really, really groundbreaking. You want to say something?
Yeah, I think you touched on a bunch of things that I want to mention also. But before that, yeah, Miguel is right. There is a steep learning curve, not necessarily like the technology, but for me, I felt like my focus changed when I started to think about money, like not Bitcoin, like, well, what is money, right? How's it created? And like, is inflation supposed to be, or is debasement of money rather supposed to be normal? Was it always like this? How has it been in history? So it took me a while, you know. I remember seeing Miguel at a meetup in 2013, and you were probably part of the group that brought a cake that said separation of money and state. And I didn't get it. I mean, I knew what the word said, but like I didn't understand why is that important? Why would you want to do that? Isn't that bad, right? Doesn't the state make the money? But you know, the money we have today is just something that's about 50 years old, right? Before that, it was based on gold. But so when I started digging deep, when I started digging deeper, reading on history, that's when I became hyper focused on Bitcoin and things like, because it's digital in this world, you can actually use it for settlement for between countries. Why can't governments or countries use it to pay each other to settle instead of shipping gold? Why not Bitcoin? Right? There's no I don't think there's any reason except that like the central banks they still look down upon it. But that's not going to be like that forever.
Yeah, so like going back, he's talking about money, right? And I was one of those people. I was just like every average Joe that didn't understand money. I didn't know how it was created. I didn't know how. I just wanted some so that I could spend it, right? Just like everyone else. We weren't taught in school, like what is money? How does it work? All we knew was that, we need to buy something valuable, otherwise, because the money will lose value over time. It was like just a statement of fact, right? And we didn't question any of these things. We didn't really like get taught about money. So that's one of the things that opened up my mind about this, because I started questioning, and I started to realize that something was broken with the system of money that we have right now. And I'm gonna give an example, no? 10 years ago, let's say a house that cost 10 million now costs 20 million. And assets are going up in price. Everything is becoming more expensive. And we would say, oh, it's inflation, ganyan, ganyan. And it's actually not. It's actually because the money is becoming more and more worthless as they print more of it.
Right.
Right? The million peso you have in the bank next year is not a million peso purchasing power anymore. And then the year after that, and then the year after that. So what did Bitcoin kind of, it actually didn't offer that. It's not anywhere in the white paper about Bitcoin that it will be used for this, right? It just said, here's a system where the amount of money is finite. It's exactly going to be only 21 million Bitcoins that are ever going to be made. And the value of this will be determined by the free market. And all that Bitcoin needs to do is to keep processing those transactions and keep doing its job, which is like just to process transactions.
TikTok, next block.
Yeah, so every time, when we were starting out, one Bitcoin was 10,000 pesos. So if a remitter wanted to send money to the Philippines for 10,000, they would send one Bitcoin. Now they would send 0.000003 or something like that. But the value proposition is still the same. The value goes up because more people want to use the network. So in my mind, parang, okay, I've always been like, I was one of those people, like I said, who was in debt, who didn't understand money. And then I started to understand it. And then I started to feel that, hey, wait, this thing allows me to store and transfer money, which is the money that you earn is your work. It's your effort put into a token that you can exchange for other things, goods and services. And all of a sudden, I could save my money and actually expect later on to be able to use it for the value to increase, right?
So, one thing, I remember reading this book and it struck me, like there's one of the points in the book that remained in my mind. It's called Lords of Finance, right? It's about World War I, when the central bankers in Europe were talking to the central bank in the States, and they essentially were like doing these deals, and one of the things that I remember clearly about the book was, the countries needed to, like England, needed to raise money to fight a war, right? They wanted to fight. They were getting ready to fight World War I, and they needed to raise money. And the way they had to do it before was they had to borrow from the public. They had to sell war bonds, right? You tell the public, we have to defend our country, or we have to go to war. Here's a bond, you can lend us money and we'll pay you back more later. Something like that. Or it convinced the people somehow that they needed money. And I'm sure that there are people who thought that, hey, even if there are no returns, even if I get less, this war is important to fight, right? But one thing they would do is that they would essentially, when they didn't have enough, they couldn't raise enough money, they would just print more of their currency so that now you couldn't buy that currency, or you couldn't get the same amount of gold anymore with that currency. Or rather, in reality, like what will happen is the currency becomes of less value. And whenever they did this, the savers would complain. Because you're a saver, you save that, you work hard, you save your money, and you expect to be able to, more or less buy you the same thing in 3 years, maybe in 10 years than it does today. But whenever they did this, the savers would complain. And that was something central bankers had to think about. If we don't keep this peg with gold, then the savers will suffer. But now, we grew up thinking this is normal. I remember, like, maybe that house, I remember buying twin Popsies like this, for the people who don't know. Like, when I was in grade school, like these 2 chocolate ice popsicles for 2 pesos. Right? Now it's 25. And I'm not that old, right?
Yeah, I hope you guys can also ask questions, no? Kasi, hirap magsalita ng tuloy-tuloy eh. Hindi, pero, again, we keep going back to the money aspect of it, no? But there's also, Bitcoin is like multidisciplinary, multifaceted thing. So, that's the idealist thing about Bitcoin. Like the money's broken, here's a way to fix it. It's an alternative. No one is ever forced to use Bitcoin. Unlike the currencies that we use now, we are forced to use pesos to pay our taxes. Cannot use any other currency. That's how, it kind of maintains its value. But if people were allowed to use, let's say, dollars, most people would rather have dollars than pesos, right? So if you think about it like that, like superior forms of money are around, right? And that light bulb moment, right? Bitcoin is probably, in my opinion, the most superior form of money that's been invented so far. And it from that, I can say, if you compare the attributes of a good money, you can all check the boxes for Bitcoin. And naturally, why is the price going up? It's been 10 years, 15 years since it started? 14 years. And people keep thinking, oh, wala na, Bitcoin's dead. There's like an obituary page where there are like 450 obituaries that Bitcoin died. But it's actually just volatile. And that's, the market, the free market doing price discovery for this new asset class, right? And it's an asset class. It's actually like a class of its own. There's no other asset like it. And when you think about it that way, that's a big deal. Diba?
Yeah, so there is an article, and I think you're giving out a book, right? Called "The Bullish Case for Bitcoin." Is that one of the ones being raffled out? I haven't read the book, but in that article, it's an excellent article. Like that came out in 2017, and I read it again in preparation for this talk a week ago or so, and it wasn't like it wasn't trying to hype Bitcoin or anything. The author Vijay approached and presented his bullish case for Bitcoin in a very level-headed way, right? And to me, it still holds true today. And this thing is going to play out for look, a lot of people sometimes especially online, they're like, oh, but it's too volatile, right? Like it's never going to be money because it's too volatile. But I ask, how else would a free market money begin? Is it going to go up steadily, right?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be choppy? Like maybe people will have waves of
look at the peso. It was 50, 60, and now it's 55. It used to be 40 5 years ago, and then 10 years ago it was 55 again. That's pretty volatile, right? Like if you were saving your money in peso, and all of a sudden the dollar, went up. Like currencies are not fixed in price, right? And something new like Bitcoin, something in its infancy, will experience
even less
volatility
so.
talaga. I don't know if that's a question in your mind, right?
Well, yeah, I mean that is sometimes like the question that some people have, and I get it, like because the volatility depends on what your bills are paid in. If they're paid in fiat currency, but you make money in Bitcoin, then yeah, you're gonna feel that volatility. But if your bills are denominated in Bitcoin, then it's less so, right? But I get it. Like it's only been 15, 14 years. Like this is going to play out, I think, it's going to be like this for at least 50 years.
I don't know, but I have a interesting anecdote from Eric Voorhees, the author of Separation of Money. He wrote that article in 2012. He was saying, if something is steadily, not volatile, but steadily appreciating in price, people will say, hey, I want to buy that. It's going up. And it will cause volatility. If it's stable and boring, no one will buy it, and it's gonna go, it's gonna go down. If it's even if it's just stable, people will buy it. Kasi fiat currency is depreciating. If you can
Right.
find something stable, it's actually a good way to put your money in that. And that's going to cause the price to go up again. So I think the volatility part is something that's unavoidable for something like this, especially since it's still, the market's figuring out what is actually worth. And if you look at the price of one Bitcoin, that's actually kind of like a big distraction. You have to look at the price, the worth of the whole network. So right now, Bitcoin's what, 500 billion or 600 billion dollars. All of the Bitcoins in the world are worth that much. And that means that that's the limitation of the commerce, of the trade that can happen within the network, right? So like my example with the remittance used to be you send one Bitcoin to send 10,000 pesos. Now you send 0.001. In the future, as more people appreciate the existence of a network that you can use without permission, that you can use without fear of censorship, that you can use without debasement, more people are going to use the network. And because of the fixed supply, it's math, right?
Yeah.
Demand increases. Normally, in a normal situation, if the demand for gold increases, people will dig more gold.
Yeah.
And then the supply will increase and the price will reach an equilibrium. But because Bitcoin is absolutely scarce, and whenever the demand goes up, the only thing that can move is the price.
Yeah.
And that's just how it's designed, actually.
Right. And a while ago you mentioned peso. So Bitcoin is volatile going up. The fiat currencies are volatile going down.
To zero.
And here's the thing, right? Like a while ago I mentioned before when they would print too much money, the savers would complain. Now we don't anymore. It's because our system is just based completely on debt. So in other words, I guess what does it mean practically for us? That we're guaranteed to lose value in the long term holding fiat.
If you don't invest it in something, right? Like,
Yeah, and we're guaranteed because if it doesn't happen that way, then the financial system isn't going to work and it's going to collapse. It's because it's based on debt. So I think it's like that. When that hit me, too, when I started seeing this debasement of money, when I started framing it and really taking it in as like it's actually theft, that's when I became like that led me to be bullish about Bitcoin.
is there anyone here that's like not, like that's not gonna work? It sounds fishy, like sounds like it's not. It sounds like it's not gonna work. Like that sounds like. Yeah, Bitcoin. Like it sounds like
Our country's gonna ban
cool
it.
story, but yeah, no,
Maybe
it's not
countries
gonna
will
work.
ban it, Miguel.
Yeah, is there anyone here that thinks maybe that doesn't make sense? Yeah, please. Perfect. We'll brainwash you.
Try to shut it down? What if they try to tax it?
Yeah.
I mean, even if people are, let's say, eventually, can you buy real estate? And then if they ask you how do you pay for it, you're going to get taxed. Is that going to, the shine Bitcoin will disappear, heavily taxed, or,
So-
regulate? They try to regulate it.
That's actually also already happening. So there are different jurisdictions have different ways of taxing Bitcoin. In the Philippines, wala. There's no, like, they don't really understand it yet. They're not taxing whenever you sell. But when in Japan, if you sell your Bitcoin, you'll get taxed capital gains. In the US,
Yes.
every time you sell Bitcoin or whatever shitcoin, they will tax, you have to report it to the IRS.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen there is people that are like the businesses that established in Japan before the taxing thing happened moved out.
Yeah.
It's a free market, right? So they'll go somewhere else where they're accepted, like Hong Kong, Singapore. I don't know about the US. The US is not that friendly. There are friendly jurisdictions. Philippines is pretty friendly. We have our own framework for how businesses should run a crypto exchange. One of the first in the world, actually. And yeah, those things are going to happen because it's an asset, right? And it depends on how the regulators look at it. So some look at it as a commodity, some look at it as a property, some look at it as, whatever they interpret it to be. So we have Attorney Raf here, he's a lawyer. He knows all the global regulatory landscape so you can ask him later. Feel free.
Right. I think the word that I was thinking of is regulatory arbitrage. Because when more countries get strict with it, others will see it as an opportunity to attract businesses and economic activity. Right? Japan recently said that they're putting up
gonna
a
change it,
framework
yeah, they're gonna change
to
it.
attract
Hong
Bitcoin and
Kong.
crypto businesses. Hong Kong as well. So what happened to was it Coinbase? Because maybe they felt that they were being attacked by regulators. They put up somewhere else and it's
In the
another
UK,
country.
yeah.
It's gonna happen. So one of my I remember people, and I had the same thoughts too, like these questions that you're going through, why I love it is because they're questions that everybody has about Bitcoin. I had them too. And I mean, once in a while, I'll still ask, but like, I haven't seen a compelling reason for that kind of activity to be on a global scale, coordinated amongst all governments, so that you couldn't take advantage of this regulatory arbitrage. Right?
Yeah.
Ako? Okay. Right. So I also, I spend maybe more time on Twitter than I'd like, and when I go deep in the threads, I see like, oh, but Bitcoin transaction fees are too high. Like, why are you gonna pay $1 every time you buy coffee? That's why you have things like Lightning, right? That really helps. And I tell people,
So for those who don't know, Lightning Network is a layer 2, second layer built on top of the Bitcoin protocol. So it allows instant and free, almost free transactions.
right, it can be free, but like
Minuscule.
Lightning works. Why I like it?
They accept it here. If you have a Lightning wallet, you can pay for your stuff.
Yes.
It already works. Yeah.
Yeah. Why I like it is because it's instant and it's theoretically scalable to infinite transactions per second. Right? It comes with a different set of trade-offs. It's not like, hey, now Bitcoin has 10 million transactions per second throughput. It comes with a different set of trade-offs, but it's excellent for payments. Like if there's any open protocol for payments on the web, I see Lightning as being that. And don't get me wrong, like I don't think Lightning is important to Bitcoin being that store of wealth. No, I'm going to rephrase that. Without Lightning, I still think Bitcoin can win that store of wealth war or whatever, that game. But Lightning makes it stickier, right? Because if the internet, if many companies, if a lot of commerce goes through something like Lightning, then the chances that people are going to care less about Bitcoin is smaller. So
And also, like in any kind of financial network, like every time you send something in GCash or InstaPay or whatever financial, you pay like 15 pesos, right? Like if you withdraw from the ATM, it's like 18 pesos. There's always going to be that kind of fee friction because of the middleman. Bitcoin doesn't have a middleman, but we end up using services that have middlemen. Like for example, CoinsPH, Bitcoin wallet, or Maya or GCash has their own crypto wallet now in the app. They'll charge you fees when you withdraw, when you transfer. because they need to make money. It's a business. But if you go down to the protocol level, if you download yourself Bitcoin Core, the main Bitcoin program, and run your own node, then you don't have to go through a middleman. So there's like trade-offs. If you want instant and quick, you pay a fee. But if you want to go through the steps and you're a little bit more technical and you can do it yourself, you can also have that option. You can even, Bitcoin's kind of flexible in terms of like how much fee you pay. So you can pay a fee, small fee, but your transaction will come in a little bit later because it's a free market. What transactions get in. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Did we kind of? I mean, I think Lightning is an answer. There are other what Miguel said, layer 2 solutions on top of Bitcoin that can be payments, that can address that as well, with a different set of trade-offs too. But it's certainly possible, and I want to reiterate, like, I think for me, Lightning has been my personal area of interest siguro the past 3 years. I downloaded a node, I ran it, I managed my own channels, I tried routing, and if this sounds like foreign to you, that's okay. But I learned a lot, and setting aside the fees, right? Because your question was about fees, like Bitcoin on the base chain isn't practical to buy coffee. Setting that aside, like Lightning is superior for payments because it's like you pay the whole thing or nothing, right? You can't pay part of, like, if you have a 200, I'll just use pesos because so that you can picture it. If you have a 200 peso invoice that you're paying, you can't just pay 50 or you can't pay 250. One problem with the base chain that I remember when you use the base chain of Bitcoin was when you use it as a payment system, some people are gonna, like, maybe it's their wallet, I don't know, they'll send more or less. They'll be like, okay, so we have to refund them, right? Or we have to ask for more because they didn't pay the full amount. And it becomes a nightmare. Lightning solves that.
How about question?
Okay, we'll repeat it for the camera.
So you guys been in Bitcoin since kind of 2013, Ethereum launched 2015, Lightning about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, 2017, I think the paper came out.
Recently, we've seen BRC20 and the ordinals.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it took so long for Bitcoin to innovate? And what do you see next? What do you see next? I'm really interested. Like, it seems like post Lightning, got some other stuff. It's really rejuvenating the Bitcoin community, like really rolling out some cool stuff and getting behind the culture perspective.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So as a protocol, right, there's only one job. It's just to transfer value from A to B without a middleman. And maybe I'll use an analogy. When the internet was new and the protocols were, fighting each other, which one are going to be the base protocol for the whole internet. The main use cases were really like, okay, we didn't have like Facebook, we didn't have social media, we didn't have like Uber, we didn't have all the things that we have now in the early days of the internet. Because the progress, people start using a new technology based on how they used similar old technology, right? So one of the, I think it's a feature, right, of a base layer for money is that it needs to be hard to change. You need to be kind of assured that, okay, no one's just going to come forward and say, oh, we're changing the way we process transactions just like that. It's actually really hard to change Bitcoin. And Satoshi Nakamoto himself said that basically the idea is from version 0.1, that's it. That's pretty much not going to change much from that. And whatever innovations or new things that we can think of, you are actually free to build it on Bitcoin, right? No one is going to stop you, but you can't make changes to the main protocol, right? So you can build on top, you can build, and that's why they were able to do that, because they made an upgrade to the main protocol Taproot, and that allowed those things to happen. And now everyone, there's a debate in the community if it's like useful or not. But I don't believe if somebody's using the Bitcoin blockchain to sell pictures or JPEGs or to make NFTs, that's great. That's the free market figuring out new use cases for this protocol, because Bitcoin is not, it's just there. You can use it or you don't have to use it. You can do whatever you want on it, but you can't just change the main protocol, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty much like, I see it that way as well. Now, I guess since I have a technical background, I'm gonna get into that a little bit, but not too much. It's if something's hard to change, like as a technology person, and I have something else in mind, like it's not just money or payments I want to do, but I want to do whatever NFTs or some kind of smart contract that does XYZ. I'm not gonna make my life difficult and build it on Bitcoin, right? I mean, why would I do that? Let's say if I were convinced that that's what I wanted to do, because there are other blockchains that have fees that are lower, and I don't need like the security that Bitcoin brings anyway. So I could even I was like that at the beginning. I would look at all these other blockchains, see what they would do, see what I could make. But then I when the money, like when that became the important picture for me, that's when I moved to Bitcoin. But at least hopefully I answered your question. Like technically, why bang your head against it? Because I think that the people who are attracted to Bitcoin were attracted to it for a specific reason.
But that's the beauty of it. It can be whatever you want it to be for yourself, right? If you can figure out a way. I think we haven't even scratched the surface of what's possible. Again, I use the analogy of the internet. It used to be, okay, there's a website. Oh, it's just the actual magazine, but put on the screen. They didn't understand, how it was possible to actually have interactions, technology needed to catch up for the new use cases to come forward. So we're at that stage, I think, in comparison. We haven't really figured out, there's no one guiding, there's no marketing team, there's no business development team for Bitcoin. It's just the free market figuring it out for itself, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we ran out of time.
Oh, shoot. Hello. I was wondering, over the course of Bitcoin's evolution, from your perspective, what is the most disappointing or regretful thing that has happened?
It's a different question. I like
That's a
it.
good question. No, but even that, it's hard to say that you're disappointed. For example, I'm speaking for myself, right? Some people were disappointed in Bitcoin and moved on to other blockchains and decided to build somewhere. That's how Ethereum started. Vitalik was actually one of the main thinkers in Bitcoin in the early days, and he was actually working in Bitcoin. He started Bitcoin Magazine or something. So he was a big Bitcoin
He
proponent.
wanted to write those kinds of smart contracts.
But
on
then
Bitcoin,
he couldn't build the things that he wanted to build on it. So he started Ethereum. So again, we're talking about the free market, right? So it allows, Bitcoin doesn't care. Like it doesn't care if you build another chain. It has one job, to create a new block every 10 minutes. That's it, right? So have I ever been disappointed in something about Bitcoin? Actually, I'm the opposite. In the beginning, I had a lot of doubts. It took many years for me for my conviction to rise to where it is now. And over time, through all the things that Bitcoin went through, like there was a block size war.
Yeah.
People wanted to increase the block size, the how many MB in one block. It forced Bitcoin to split into two, and there was Bitcoin Cash, and then there's other forms of Bitcoin. There was China banning it several times. There was a lot of existential threats that happened, and that's scary if you're building a startup and if your investments are in Bitcoin. But so far, Bitcoin came through with flying colors, in my experience and in my opinion. And so, you actually don't have anything to say about how if I'm disappointed about it.
That's right. I mean, at the beginning, it was all questions. It was like, are our government's going to ban it? Or if not, are they going to tax it to high heavens? What happens when the miners shut down? And these things, they just happen. So, of course, the first time they happened, the first time China happened, when they banned miners, I was like, oh, yeah, what is going to happen to the Bitcoin network, right? When the block size war happened, they're like, okay, who's going to win out here? Those were pretty scary times. And I think, at least now we have maybe precedent, or we have something that has happened before that we can compare our questions. We have questions now, and then we could use history as an example to answer part of it.
I do have one thing actually. I thought about it just now. It's about the privacy aspect of Bitcoin. I think that's one of the things that has people have been trying to figure out from the very beginning. Bitcoin is pseudonymous. You don't know who's transacting, but at some point, your transactions are all public. So there's a lot of people are figuring out ways to increase the privacy of Bitcoin. And so far, once you interact with a institution, KYC institution, they can follow your money around. There are
Kinda.
companies right now. Yeah, kinda. But
So-
it's not very private still. I mean,
yeah,
that's just my honest
guess,
opinion about it.
About that, it is a concern, right? And that's why a lot of people have to, I guess, fortunately, you kind of have to think about, if you want to maintain your privacy, you have to think about the Bitcoins and where you got it, if they're mixed or not. It's gotten a lot easier to obfuscate the tracks, right? And I'm not saying this because there's something illegal you want to hide. It's like the same reason you don't open up your wallet wherever you go and just showing people what you have in it, right? It's for that reason. It's gotten easier, but I guess from a technical point of view, I don't think we'll ever put Monero kind of privacy on the Bitcoin based chain. I think that Monero is you can't trace Bitcoins going through addresses on a blockchain. I don't think we'll ever do that. Everything in life is a trade-off, and that has a different set of trade-offs. And for something like that, I would think it would be detrimental if you were to use that as a global money, because you don't know technically how many Monero are out there because of the way the technology works, right? You can't be sure. So, I think we're going to get privacy in different layers.
Lightning networks.
Lightning
has a lot
network,
of-
there's no blockchain.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot harder for a company like Chainalysis to track Bitcoin and where it goes. So, and then, if you use side chains, that's possible, but I think it's more clunky. And when you use Lightning, you can also mix as you use it. That's possible too. So I think we're gonna get to a point where the tools you use they just take care of that. As long as your threat level isn't like the NSA or the CIA going after you, you're gonna have reasonable privacy.
So we have a lot of audiences online who are listening to this conversation, and we have a few questions from them.
All right, thank you, Celine. No? So we have a question from a live, no, from our Facebook live stream, no, from Norbert Bedia. So how will institutional adoption affect Bitcoin? Like BlackRock, what if their application of ETF will approve?
Okay, so for people that don't know, BlackRock is the biggest asset manager in the world. They manage like $9 or $10 trillion, trillion with a T. And they recently filed for a Bitcoin ETF, an exchange traded fund, which is heavily regulated financial service that allows institutions to buy something, an asset, or they have an ETF for gold, they have an ETF for different things. So right now, if I'm a pension fund, for example, and I have so much money, I can't figure out where to put it, and I want to buy Bitcoin, there's no way for me to do that. That will clear the regulatory hurdle of your board of directors and stuff. BlackRock and other asset managers that are trying to apply for a Bitcoin ETF will allow those institutions to buy as part of their portfolio, and they'll manage it for them and everything. So how will that affect Bitcoin? Like I said earlier, when the demand increases, the supply doesn't increase along with the demand, so the price will go up. And I'm going to use an example. Gold reached $2,000 in the 80s and then crashed to 300. For like a decade, it stayed down there. In 2004, BlackRock launched a gold ETF. And over the next 5 years, gold went back to $2,000. It's because it allowed big institutions with finding where to allocate 1%, 2% of their fund. It gives you an alternative way, to diversify whatever portfolio you have. So my opinion is it's going to make the price go up.
Yeah. So I guess I knew much less before about this whole Wall Street side of things. An ETF essentially they'll buy that Bitcoin, hold it, and then when you buy that funds like shares, they'll get more Bitcoin. They'll buy more from the market. When you sell, they'll sell, more or less, right? I'm super simplifying it. And if you have like in the States an IRA, like these are like retirement funds, retirement accounts, like you can contribute to it. Like I guess like SSS, you can choose to put it in
Some of it.
yeah, you can choose to put some of it. Well, you're not allowed to just say, hey, can you buy Bitcoin? Because who's going to hold it, right? But if there's an ETF, you can say buy some Bitcoin with that. And why they like it is because a lot of times when you finally get this money back, or when you get your retirement fund, you don't pay taxes on the gains there, right? So that's why sometimes a lot of people prefer to invest through their IRA or through their retirement account, because their tax of Bitcoin goes 10x. They're not going to pay like a 20% capital gains tax when they liquidate that and get their IRA funds.
We have another question.
Ayun, no? Before I ask another question, I would like to thank those who are watching us live here at Facebook. So, hello, GM to all of you. Ayan. So, we have another question from Andrew Magpantay. What are your thoughts about Bitcoin ordinals? Is it good or bad for the Bitcoin ecosystem?
I think I answered that a little bit earlier. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. If you find a use case for Bitcoin, you're free to use it. Like no one's going to stop you. That's the whole point, right? I think that's the beauty of it. Some people will say that's not good for Bitcoin. It's taking up normal transaction space. But like what happened with the ordinals, right? The fees went up. They're like, oh, Bitcoin is broken. We broke. They were saying, okay, now the fees are so high you can't even use Bitcoin anymore. Now it's back to low fees because the people that were paying the fees ran out of money, pretty much. And that's the design of the system, right? That's how Bitcoin is designed. If you want to pay more for your transactions, whatever it is, to go through, then you're free to do that. And the miners will happily take your money until you run out of money, right? So again, for me, that's the beauty of it. Like you can think of something, you can test the network, you can push it to its limit, and it will just, it will just bend and sway with whatever comes, right? But ultimately, it's just going to find an equilibrium. The market will decide if this is useful for the Bitcoin network or not.
Right. I pretty much have the same stance, but I guess, let's expound it a little bit more. I think that eventually those are going to move elsewhere. That activity will move elsewhere because it'll be too expensive. Because after all, if you're issuing NFTs, you're the issuer, right? Or if you, let's say not even NFTs, let's say a stable coin, right? I mean, USDT started on Bitcoin, but most of the USDT activity isn't there anymore. And it's not important. It's not important for them to have or it's not worth the USDT users to be paying the Bitcoin fees because, well, one, USDT is already centralized, right? So it's a lot less useful for USDT to be on something like Bitcoin. So, Tron is taking the cake for this.
Yeah. So yeah, free market, right? Like it's a welcome thing. Like people should experiment more, I think, on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if someone one day creates a way to send USDT around like without a blockchain and it's essentially free, then go ahead and use it. You're already trusting Tether, right? To back those USDTs.
Okay, so we're wrapping up now. I guess I would love to, if one final question, if there's any from the audience. Yes, Nathan.
I will already ask. Anyone else want one? I'll get to one after. Back to the bullish case of Bitcoin. What do you think drives the next growth? Technology, macro, take all the shit coins out of it, are 8 Bitcoin fiat? What's driving Bitcoin forward ahead of all others? In where it's at today?
Yeah, price wise, right? So your question is, I guess, for
Just what makes you bullish moving forward? You've kind of used the historical, but
So let me just repeat the question for the audience online. What makes you bullish about Bitcoin as compared to the other
the future.
cryptocurrencies out there?
What makes me bullish about Bitcoin is I think that people are going to converge on using it as a way to settle trade. Like even if they don't buy it and store it, they'll buy it to send it, right? Like what's an example of this? A concrete example. As a demonstration, I got someone in Nigeria who has like a Lightning wallet and that's connected to their financial system, right? And I was using a local wallet called Pouch that's connected to our financial system, and they both speak Bitcoin. So that person converted in a few seconds, they sent like $1 worth of Nigerian naira, converted that to Bitcoin over Lightning, sent to Pouch, converted to peso, and I got it on a Saturday morning. Where else are you going to do that? And if that sounds useful to you, and I bet it does to a lot of people who've sent money across borders, then the companies that enable the transfer of money are going to want to plug in, right? Right now, they're all using long distance telephone technology. They want to plug in VoIP. And I think that's what Bitcoin is. That's like the VOIP of money.
What makes me bullish for the future about Bitcoin, and honestly, um, it's for me personally, and then like in general, Bitcoin gives me hope for the future because, saving my energy and work today in Bitcoin for the last 10 years has allowed me to reap the benefits of, the appreciation of the price of Bitcoin. And here's the thing. Another thing that I realize is that, and it's becoming more obvious to everybody, the money is broken. The money system is broken. Why does it take 3 days to wire money to another country? Like, all the gatekeepers are holding on to the gate. they don't want to let go. We're living in a digital age. Everyone's online, instantly transferring information. But with money, there's so much friction. The system is run by old dinosaurs that are clinging on. And the future is actually pretty bright because most young people think that this is the future. Most young people now would rather buy Bitcoin than buy stocks or buy whatever, right? And they're kind of also frustrated that their parents in their early 20s could buy a house and a car with only one person working. But now that's not possible anymore, right? I think the value proposition of a network like Bitcoin, and it's just a network, right? It's an alternative network. It gives people an alternative. Doesn't force anyone to use it. And the thing is, the last few years, Bitcoin dropped 75, 80%. The conviction of the people that are holding it, more than 80% of Bitcoins didn't move during that crash. So, like, a person like me that gets it, and it works for me. It's hard to look back. It's hard to go back. It's hard to say, I don't like this anymore. I'm going to go back to pesos. And the number of people that believe this is increasing. It's not decreasing because the dropout rate is lower than the new people that are like getting it this way. So I'm hopeful for the future because Bitcoin was the first, and maybe there will be many, maybe there are other alternatives, but it was the first kind of escape valve. You could actually now exist financially and interact with the whole world financially without being beholden to a nation state or a corporation. You can actually do this on your own, right? And I think that's a big use case. And if you look at countries where there's a lot of oppression, a lot of inflation, I had a friend in Venezuela, and he, in 2019, when all that crazy chaos was happening and their money was getting inflated into zero, where you used to have $1 million, now it's like $10. That bad, right? He was buying he told me he needed to buy Bitcoin. And he bought Bitcoin during that time. So there's those other things that we're not aware of because we're living in a world where everything's kind of okay, right? Bitcoin offers an alternative for billions of people that don't have the same luxury that we have in most developed countries, or even like the Philippines. We have pretty stable financial system. So again, in the future, as the network grows, as the number of people that are storing value, transferring value using Bitcoin grow as well. I mean, more people, it's like a virtuous cycle, right? More people are gonna create new innovations. More people are gonna find new use cases. More people are gonna appreciate the value of their work being saved, because you used to be able to save and appreciate, expect your money to buy you something 10 years from now. So yeah, for me, that's really the biggest value proposition of Bitcoin. Like, it's there, it exists. You can use it, you don't have to use it, and you're never going to be forced to use it, but it works. And all it needs is just to work. That every 10 minutes, there's a new block of transactions that cannot be censored, cannot be stopped, cannot be blocked by anybody, cannot be, whatever. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
What do you think, guys, about the institutional or government level adoption of Bitcoin? What is the biggest obstacle about that?
Attorney Raf proposed that the BSP hold some Bitcoin in their reserves. It's possible, right?
I mean, how can we convince the government to adopt?
That's hard.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's hard. Well, with the Bitcoin ETF from BlackRock, the government could actually buy. So right now,
The sovereign wealth fund can buy.
the BSP owns about 400 billion pesos worth of gold, and they own 2 trillion pesos worth of stocks. So the BSP actually can buy assets to try to protect, its reserves. So with the BlackRock ETF, it's actually possible for the government itself to say, that's BlackRock. They have more money than our country. Why don't we buy 1% of our reserves, turn it into Bitcoin, right? It's happening in a corporate level.
Yeah. What about
Tesla owns like $1 billion.
What about the institutional adoption in Manila, like what they did in Boracay?
So here.
Oh, yeah, that's merchant adoption. So that's happening also organically, right? So people are accepting it, and more, like they're accepting it and not selling it. They'd rather keep it, right?
In the future.
Yeah, I think it's for institutional adoption, it's really something like an ETF that will allow them to buy into it. I mean, technically, it's an IOU and it's not really the Bitcoin, but a lot of this is just like psychological. They have to get used to it, right? I mean, a lot of people ask like, how can I orange pill or how can I get other people to see the benefits of Bitcoin? And like, why is it taking so long? And I usually say like, how long would it take you to get it? Right? So, chill.
Yeah, just a quick comment on merchant adoption. So that's going to be essential because as Vijay's book, as he has written in his book, right, money develops in stages. First as a collectible, then as a store of value, and then the important aspect of as a medium of exchange. So the increase in merchant adoption actually accelerates that process of Bitcoin from becoming a store of value to also becoming a medium of exchange. Then just a quick comment on the central bank holding Bitcoin as part of its reserve asset. So I wrote a paper there about it, describing how it is legally possible for the central bank to actually hold Bitcoin, but it's going to be a policy question now on whether they're going to do it. Then we have a new law that created the Maharlika Investment Fund, the Philippines' first sovereign wealth fund. It's just an interesting thing to think or ponder. What if instead of investing in various securities as part of the sovereign wealth fund, the government has just invested in Bitcoin, for
Or
instance?
part of it.
Yeah, but there's a brighter side to this because if you read the Maharlika Investment, the law that created the Maharlika Investment Fund, there's a part there, a section there where it's possible actually for this Maharlika Investment Fund Corporation to actually invest in other types of assets as well, as long as it's decided by the board. So theoretically speaking, it's also possible for the Maharlika Investment Fund to also hold some Bitcoin. But it's going to be a policy question whether the government would want to do that.
Oh, again, sorry, I forgot. There's an example already. El Salvador holds Bitcoin as part of their country's reserves. So it's possible. It can happen. It depends on the leadership and I guess the risk appetite.
Yeah,
Right?
and of course, like even before El Salvador did it, people were saying if when a country gets into it, it'll be a small country, and true enough, right? It's gonna start there. It has to start at a small country. You know, they have a lot to gain, little to lose, and then it ground up, I guess.
All right. So thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause.
1, 2, 3. May tanong sana ako.
Can I mention about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to invite you guys on August 9 we're- August 9 we're having a Bitcoin meetup, and usually most of the time it's like just social gathering, but sometimes there's a specific topic, and the next one we're gonna talk about Lightning wallets. So the different kinds of Lightning wallets. We'll have demos. I'm gonna ask that you pay for your bill in Lightning, right? So bring some cash so you can buy. If you don't have any Bitcoin, you can buy from someone, buy a Lightning, and pay for your bill. And an exercise at the end is I want to have a lightning torch where you pass the Bitcoin from person to person. You make a full circle so people really get the feel of it. So August 9, go to meetup.com and the Philippine Bitcoiners group. 5 p.m. Here. Because they accept Bitcoin over Lightning.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you to everybody, and we'll see you at the next BBB next month. Thank you. Okay, yeah. Thanks. And yeah, if you want